LeBron, he's too big to be that type of bully. To bully Stephen A. and to bully Brian Windhorst. Brian Windhorst is a sweet person, man. He's just trying to do his thing. And I've always liked LeBron, but him being a bully, it turned me off, Dan.
Make of LeBron confronting you in the aftermath of that situation?
I thought it was weak. I thought it was some bullshit.
Let me say this as clearly as I can. LeBron James has officially lost control of the narrative. Not just as a player, not just as a father, but as the face of an empire that's starting to crack under the weight of its own ego. Because what happened this week? That wasn't just about Charles Barkley. It wasn't just about Stephen A. Smith. It was about LeBron James exposing himself, live, unfiltered, and on camera, for exactly what critics like me have been saying for years. He doesn't want fair coverage. He wants worship. He doesn't want scrutiny. He wants submission. And if you dare question his son, even politely, he's coming for your throat like you insulted royalty. But here's the truth LeBron can't outrun anymore. This isn't about Bronny. This is about LeBron's obsession with a fairy tale ending. And now, the media's finally calling him out. Stephen A. didn't back down. Charles Barkley didn't back down. And I sure as hell won't either. So let's get into it. Because the king just declared war on anyone who won't kneel at his feet. And this time, the throne is shaking.
To you and Stephen A. Hey, legit, that feels like a moment that had been brewing for a long time.
He's like on a Taylor Swift tour run right now.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're watching it. Yep. We're all
Oh, yeah.
You're seeing it as well.
Let's stop pretending. LeBron James didn't just speak up. He didn't just defend his son. What he did was launch a full-blown, ego-fueled meltdown on national television, in the middle of a game, mind you, because someone had the audacity to question his royal blueprint. You want the truth? Here it is. LeBron doesn't want analysis. He wants allegiance. When Stephen A. made a perfectly fair point, that maybe, just maybe, throwing a teenager into NBA warfare isn't wise, LeBron didn't respond with reason. He responded like a man whose empire was being threatened. He stormed down, locked eyes with a broadcaster courtside, and let it fly. Why? Because deep down, LeBron knows the clock is ticking. He knows the fairy tale is falling apart. He knows Bronny's spotlight is getting hotter than his jump shot, and it's exposing cracks in the king's carefully controlled legacy. And then, just when you thought he might back off, nope. He ran to a podcast, to air his frustration, like some late-career politician trying to win back public sympathy. He sat in front of a mic and flipped the script. I'm just a loving father. I'm just protecting my child. Oh really? If you're just a father, why are cameras always rolling when you do it? Why is your son the headline every time you step on the court? Let me be blunt, this isn't about protection. This is about control. Control of the message. Control of the narrative. Control of the league. LeBron isn't protecting Bronny. He's using him to write the ending to a career that's already been written. And when someone like Stephen A. has the guts to say it out loud, LeBron goes ballistic. But here's the part that truly exposes the truth. He didn't aim at stats. He didn't disprove any claims. He didn't argue performance. He went personal. That's not leadership. That's insecurity. And for someone who wants to be remembered as the greatest, it's a terrible look. So now we're here, not talking about Bronny's potential, not evaluating his development. No. We're watching LeBron spin another media circus where he plays victim, the media plays villain, and Bronny? He's just the pawn in a larger game. And it's only getting uglier from here.
It started off with, I didn't want to address it.
Yeah, sure.
I didn't want to address it. I wasn't going to address it. But since the video came out, I feel the need to address it. Never would I ever not allow people to talk about the sport, criticize players about what they do on the court. That is your job, to criticize or to, be in a position where, okay, if a guy's not performing, that is all part of the game. That's all part of the game. But when you take it and you get personal with it, it's my job to not only protect my damn household, but protect the players. And I think a lot of the media, including him, and I know he's gonna be happy as hell. He's gonna be smiling from ear to ear when he hears me talking about it again. Oh my!
Now this is where it got ugly. Fast. LeBron lit the match. Stephen A. threw gasoline on it. And guess what? The tide didn't roll LeBron's way. Not even close. When LeBron marched into public view trying to frame himself as some misunderstood dad just shielding his offspring from criticism, Stephen A. sat down on national television and absolutely dismantled that entire pity campaign, piece by piece. He didn't flinch. He didn't sugarcoat. He didn't backpedal. He doubled down with surgical precision. And what did he say? He pointed straight at the scoreboard. Not the final score, the stats. The hard numbers. The box score that doesn't lie. Because while LeBron was ranting about loyalty and legacy, Bronny was logging minutes with zero contribution, looking like a deer in the headlights while his father kept fueling the spotlight. Stephen A. didn't call names. He didn't insult anyone. He simply asked the one question no one else had the nerve to say out loud. Is this really about the son's growth, or is this just about the father's legacy? Because let's be honest, what kind of message does it send to every young baller out there grinding through the system when a player gets elevated to the big stage before he's ready, simply because of his DNA? And that's what Stephen A. hit on hard. He didn't attack Bronny's potential. He didn't question his work ethic. He called out the process, the unfair ladder, the shortcut, the shadow of nepotism that hangs over the entire situation like a fog. And for once, the sports media didn't take LeBron's side. Instead of circling the wagons like they usually do whenever the king speaks, this time, a whole wave of analysts started nodding along with Stephen A.'s take. They saw the same thing, a manufactured moment being forced down everyone's throats at the cost of a young man's development. Radio shows lit up. Podcasts echoed the criticism. Fan bases, normally divided, suddenly united under a new banner. Let the kid grow. Stop the circus. And you could feel LeBron squirming behind the curtain. Why? Because this wasn't just Stephen A. anymore. It was everyone. This was the first time the machine stopped working in his favor. The first time the narrative slipped through his hands. And it only got worse. Because while LeBron was busy micromanaging public perception, the kid, the one this was all supposed to be about, was being swallowed alive by the moment. Tossed into games he wasn't ready for. Expected to carry the weight of history while still figuring out how to survive on a professional court. And for what? A headline? A legacy stunt? Stephen A. saw that. He screamed it from the rooftops. This was never about basketball. It was about branding. And LeBron's furious response? That told you everything. When a man's reaction is that aggressive, it usually means he knows deep down. The critics are right.
Who had a better week? LeBron James or Stephen A. Smith?
They both had an awful week. LeBron, he's too big to be that type of bully. To bully Stephen A. and to bully Brian Windhorst. Brian Windhorst is a sweet person, man. He's just trying to do his thing. And I've always liked LeBron, but him being a bully, it turned me off.
If LeBron thought Stephen A.'s backlash was bad, he clearly didn't count on Charles Barkley detonating the entire conversation. Because while others were still dancing around the tension, throwing careful jabs and veiled critiques, Sir Charles walked straight into the mess and tore off the gloves. No filters. No soft talk. Just vintage Barkley. Blunt, brutal, and absolutely surgical. Let me tell you what happened, because this wasn't just another TV soundbite. This was a Hall of Famer staring straight at the NBA's biggest icon and saying, "You're out of line. You're out of touch. And you're doing your son more harm than good." Yeah. He said that. On national television. In front of millions. And he didn't blink once. Because here's the truth. Charles Barkley doesn't owe LeBron anything. He's not part of the LeBron fan club. He's not trying to protect some marketing empire. He's a basketball lifer who sees through the smoke, and what he saw disgusted him. He called it what it is, a manipulation campaign. An orchestrated effort to strong-arm the media into silence, shield a legacy from scrutiny, and bulldoze a path for a young man who hasn't earned his keep. Barkley didn't just call LeBron emotional. He called him strategic, calculating, and reckless. He said LeBron's antics were toxic. Not just to the media, but to Bronny himself. Let's stop sugarcoating. Barkley straight up accused LeBron of using his son's name as a vehicle to inflate his own mythos. Not to empower Bronny. Not to teach him the ropes. But to craft a final chapter worthy of a Netflix documentary. And here's the scary part. He's not wrong. Because while LeBron is out there publicly feuding with every journalist who dares speak the truth, Bronny's development is being sacrificed on the altar of LeBron's fairy tale. And Charles? He ripped the curtain down and exposed it all. He asked the hard questions. Why isn't Bronny thriving in a developmental league where he could actually grow? Why push him under the spotlight when his own skill set isn't polished? Why turn every game into a referendum on fatherhood? And then came the knockout punch, the quote that made headlines for days. This isn't parenting. This is ego. Boom. You could hear the tension ripple across the entire basketball world. And just like that, Barkley became the voice for every coach, scout, and player who'd watched this train wreck from the sidelines and kept quiet, until now. He didn't just challenge LeBron's methods. He challenged his motives. He looked past the family photos, the commercials, the PR spin, and said, "You're not helping him. You're hurting him. And the worst part, you don't even see it." That hit harder than any crossover LeBron's ever taken. And the media, the same one LeBron used to control with ease, started shifting. What was once praise became pressure. What was once silence became sharp commentary. Because Barkley did what no one else had the guts to do. He flipped the mirror and forced the king to stare at the cracks in his own reflection.
Bronny's a prospect. Number one, I'm glad he's healthy. I think he should be in the G League. He's not ready to play in the NBA right now.
And it's expected he will spend.
And he should be in the G League because he's not ready to play in the NBA first and foremost. But secondly, there's going to be some guys coming for his head. And he's not ready because he's really a tweener. He's a point guard, two guard. His probably best attribute right now is being a defender. But I think to take the pressure off him and let him get better as a...
Let's rip the Band-Aid off. This isn't about basketball anymore. This is about obsession. Obsession with image. Obsession with control. Obsession with writing the final chapter of a story that was already legendary, but apparently not legendary enough for LeBron James. Because let's not pretend, this father-son saga was never just a feel-good fantasy. This was calculated, planned, staged. From the moment LeBron publicly declared his dream to share the court with his boy, it was clear. This wasn't going to be Bronny's journey. This was going to be a LeBron production. And guess who's paying the price? Not Stephen A. Not Charles Barkley. Not the press. Bronny. A kid who didn't ask for the cameras. A teenager suddenly expected to live up to a legacy built over 2 decades by a global megastar. A young man tossed into the deep end of the league, not because he was ready, but because his last name carried weight. And don't give me the, "he's tough enough" speech. No amount of strength can prepare you for a spotlight that wasn't earned. When your first steps in the pros come with more judgment than most vets get in a lifetime, how are you supposed to grow? You're not. You're expected to survive. But here's the hard truth LeBron refuses to face. By forcing the moment, he may have broken the moment. You don't build greatness by skipping steps. You don't build confidence by insulating someone from consequences. You don't prepare your child for war by making him a mascot for your victory lap. Look around. The numbers don't lie. The confidence is shaken. The rhythm is off. The pressure is suffocating. And while Bronny struggles to find his game, LeBron is out here waging PR battles, lecturing the media, crafting his next quote for the documentary. He doesn't see the harm because he's too busy managing the myth. And the saddest part? Bronny might actually be good. He might have had a real shot, if given space, patience, and the quiet room to fail and improve. But how do you develop when your first dribble comes with 10 million critics dissecting your every move? How do you breathe when your name is weaponized in every debate? How do you shine when your success is expected, not discovered? And let's talk about the so-called dream. The fairy tale of sharing the hardwood as father and son. Yes, it's poetic. Yes, it would be historic. But at what cost? Are we really willing to bulldoze through meritocracy just to stage a viral moment? Let me be crystal clear. This isn't hate. This isn't jealousy. This is a warning. Because if LeBron doesn't stop scripting his son's destiny like it's another Nike campaign, he's not going to create a magical legacy moment. He's going to create a cautionary tale. A story of how a generational icon, so desperate for narrative control, ended up suffocating the very future he was trying to uplift. And years from now, when we look back at this chaotic chapter, it won't be about highlights, dunks, or milestones. It'll be about how the king chased one last crown, and in the process, risked tarnishing 2 legacies instead of just his own.
What do you make of LeBron's comments?
That this is all his fault. All of it. When we get to Bronny James, that kid has done nothing. The kid has done nothing but work hard, try to get on this game and all of this other stuff. Any attention that he's warranted has been because of his daddy. I want to play with my son. I want to stay here until my son gets to the NBA. We've seen interviews with Savannah and LeBron, and they were asked about Bronny.